This news will have you buzzing and will literally take your breath away. The government are considering ending the sale and use of so-called laughing gas in England and Wales. The proposed banning of nitrous oxide, or hippie crack as it's known, which can have damaging side effects, is part of a drive to tackle antisocial behaviour. Worryingly, nitrous oxide is one of the most commonly used drugs among 16 to 24-year-olds in England. You may have seen those small gas canisters lying around on the street. Heavy, regular use can lead to a range of side effects, including dizziness, weakness in the legs and impaired memory. Inhaling the gas directly from a large canister can be fatal. So laughing gas is no laughing matter. About time they made it illegal. Whatever happened to the war on drugs? It seems to have ended in a hellish ceasefire in which we've normalised the use of marijuana, cocaine and every other stimulant you can think of. Are the authorities, the courts and the police now so weak they can't stop people buying and selling this stuff? If the police can't stop it, what's the point in having them? After all, the illegal narcotics trade is a gateway drug to so many other crimes. Muggings, burglaries, violence, domestic abuse, damaged families, damaged kids, you name it. The explosion in illegal drug use in this country is one of the worst things that's ever happened to us, and is far more of a threat than terrorism, for example, as drug dealers terrorise the streets, as they ramp up violence for profit, and as they wreck lives. Now, last night, I attended a brilliant school talk about drugs. Drug use is now so bad in schools, with children as young as 11 skinning up, that very often the toilets are open plan now. That's right, the loos are open plan with no locks on cubicles to prevent drugs being consumed during the school day. One of the great misconceptions I learnt last night is this idea of a spectrum of drugs. You know, Class A, Class B, Class C. Be clear that all drugs are in a class that can kill you, damage your health and ruin your life. One of the speakers told me about a 20-year-old who'd been using ketamine for a few years. Now, this drug is known to affect the bladder of all things. Well, this young lad has had his bladder removed, and urine now goes straight into a colostomy bag attached to the side of his trousers. OK, so just picture that. I'm no expert in fashion, but I can't imagine that's the best look for an aspiring 20-year-old walking around with a bag of piss on his belt. This tragedy, caused by a drug taken all the time by young people, is only considered Class B. Tell that to the kid I've mentioned, who's now got to empty a bag 3 times a day. You've got codeine-based painkillers. Again, these pills have become very normalised and are even available via prescription. Except they're highly addictive, and as a member of the opioid family, if you're taking these pills, you're effectively taking a form of heroin. Then there's cocaine, which, although linked to an international industry run by gangsters, has become a fashionable drug enjoyed by the chattering middle classes, who chatter a lot more when they're on it. And then you have marijuana, the wacky-backy, the ganja, which some argue should be decriminalised. But to decriminalise would send the most disastrous message, that the government thinks this drug is OK. It's not OK. First of all, the dope that's sold now, often called skunk, is an industrial and chemical product. It's not like the green leaves that were making the Beatles high in the 1960s, or the weak brown block of resin that people were crumbling into their Rizzlers at university in the 80s and 90s. This stuff is toxic as hell. Youngsters are sometimes being sectioned after just one spliff, by which time it's too late. Plus, there's the long-term impact on human health. Marijuana use has been linked to depression, anxiety, low energy, there's a surprise, and a curtailed, unproductive life. The only good use for any of these substances is, in my view, medical. Morphine, fentanyl, marijuana are fantastic as pain relief or for those with chronic diseases. But beyond those uses, we, in my view, have got to move to a society which aspires to be drug-free. The people that sell drugs are the worst members of our society, with no scruples whatsoever, perfectly happy to pursue their business model, resulting in the death of children and of young people. The team last night who work with victims of drug abuse told me that in order to make skunk look more valuable so that it glistens to the naked eye, they've been known to add glass, rat poison and human faeces. Do you want that going into your kids? So much for marijuana being a natural recreational drug. I went to school with an amazing person. Out of respect for his family, I will change his name to Daniel. He was my school friend. I'd known Daniel since I was about 7 years old. He had fair hair, brown eyes, and he was a ridiculously handsome kid with a hilarious wit. This lad was whip smart with his life ahead of him. He came over to my place for sleepovers. I went to his place as well. His family were lovely. But having gone from being inseparable, joined at the hip, we grew apart when he hit his teens. And why was that? Well, because he got involved with the wrong crowd. So-called hard lads, aggressive, slightly violent individuals who were, of course, into drugs. It was only when I hit my late teens, maybe 18 or 19, that I got an update on Daniel. He was found dead in his garden by his mother following a heroin overdose. This is my best friend we're talking about here. Daniel would be here now if it wasn't for the drug industry and gateway stimulants like marijuana, which many characterise as harmless and fun, but it ain't. The drugs don't work, folks. They should be a taboo, not the mark of a great night out. They're killing people, hurting people, and they are damaging our society, and we must fight back. There is no safe amount of any drug. It's time for all of us to just say no.